Hi, welcome. And we're here today with Chris Ling from APsystems, and we're here to talk about the exciting QS2 Quad Microinverter launch from AP. And Chris is an applications engineering manager with APsystems, and we're going to kick this off by the first question being, can you tell us a bit about the Quad Microinverter history? In Canada at the moment, the leading microinverter is the DS3 family. Specifically with 500 watt modules lately, installers are using the DS3L. But you used to have a quad microinverter, so maybe you could start by sharing some of that history.
Yeah. So first of all, thanks a lot, Jeff, for inviting me into the conversation. We're also very excited to launch the QS2 microinverter as well. And yes, as you had mentioned, our first quad microinverter, which is the QS1, Q meaning quad, S is single phase, and one is the first generation. We had released that a couple of years ago as our first product that does four panels in a single phase environment. A lot of the customer feedback that we got from the QS1 was very bifurcated, I would say. A lot of people really loved it. A lot of people really hated it. And I would say for the people that really disliked it, the main reason was the difficulty with regards to doing whips. Because if you can imagine, you have a single micro inverter, and to be able to attach four panels into that microinverter, the organization of how you do the DC wiring is a little bit complicated. Instead of stringing them together like a string inverter, or having like fewer microinverters but less whips that you have to manage. So a lot of people struggled with that. Especially for people who are more familiar with single module, single microinverter topologies, or even just from a dual topology as well. But a lot of people really loved the quads because the so first off, the BOM cost is much lower. So the amount that you're paying for power electronics goes down a lot because you can just simply you install fewer, and then you have fewer power electronics on the roof. So that's a huge cost savings that we can offer to customers. So a lot of times is that it's the customers that are able to know how to install a quad. So for example, if you have a system that has more regular or consistent layouts, that is easier to have more repeated connections. For customers that know, like, okay, if I'm doing a quad, if I'm doing these panels, then I know exactly which DC whips I need to attach to my system as well. Then for them, it's a huge cost savings because they're able to manage that. So we had discontinued the QS1, and I would say if I'm being a little bit blunt, it was definitely a little bit controversial. Especially for the people who really enjoyed using the quad microinverter for the reasons I had explained earlier.
Mhm.
The reason we had stopped was the QS1 at the time was not certified for a UL1741 SB, which is a regulation that a lot of utilities are requiring microinverters to be on. So for us, we basically just focused on releasing the DS3 platform. So the DS3 was the dual microinverter, and that was what we used to first go to the market to be able to fulfill the demands from the utilities that need the smart grids. When we made that decision, a lot of people still wanted to have the quad solution, so we kept getting a lot of feedback and requests regarding this product. So this is sort of the big reason why we decided to go and release the QS2 as our new 4-to-1 microinverter.
Right.
And this microinverter is four modules and is properly certified for the UL1741 SB smart grid requirements that a lot of utilities are requiring.
Great. Yeah, and just before you launch into the features and advantages, benefits of the QS2, I'll just say I was here for the end of the QS1, and there was a clamoring of the last product there because there were a lot of fans around, as you mentioned. and those people were disappointed it was going away. And so there's a lot of people that didn't yet need SB in their region, and they bought it all up. And then, of course, the market has adapted to the DS3 platform over the last few years. So yeah, why don't you run us through the new and exciting QS2?
Yeah, for sure. So the maybe I'll start with the boring things about the QS2, which actually I think will be actually quite exciting.
Great.
So, the QS2 is compatible with the DS3 platform from a system integration perspective. So it is Zigbee. It uses the same. So if you have a system with a ECU R or C that communicates with microinverters via Zigbee, you will be able to use the same mesh network to be able to create that used to be able to create that site. So you can mix and match with our DS3 platform, our YC600 platform, not the YC500 because that's PLC. But if you have a system that is Zigbee related, the QS2 will be able to fit in from a communication perspective. It uses the same AC connector also, so the same trunk cable topology, the Y3 connector, so you'll be able to use that in line with the trunk cable. Uh, just one thing to be cautious about is that if you do the mix and matching, just be careful about the current limits of the trunk cable, but I'll go over more into details later on. But the key thing I just want to reiterate is that it uses the same bus cable topology. Um, the other exciting thing about the QS2 is that in APsystems we try to look forward towards higher power modules. We see every year that we're starting to see increase of module power. So for the QS2, we wanted to be ready for that, so that when modules do go around the 500 or above power range, that we will be able to sustain that power. So just as a quick stats, the maximum AC output of the QS2 is 1920 watts. So that's about 480 watts AC per channel. And this means that from a panel sizing perspective, you're free to put the wattage of the panels higher than that. You will get some clipping, but I usually say that around 500 is a good sweet spot with regards to good utilization of the microinverter. It's also the other thing that's exciting for the QS2 is that it's four MPPTs. This means that each of the four channels that you plug into for the QS2, they are able to maximize the power point independently. So whatever's going on with one panel will not impact the other panels. So like in a string inverter, if you have a bunch of panels in a string, if one gets diminished, it will impact the other panels. But then for the QS2, because they're all independent MPPTs, they don't impact each other. And this also allows you to get module level monitoring on all four of the panels, so you can get voltage and current for all four panels for debugging purposes.
Very
And as
important.
I mentioned earlier, we also have it's certified UL 1741 SB, so it will be useful for the utilities that require that certification for their utility.
Great. Perfect. Yeah, very exciting. As you said, a bit of future proofing on the sizing, which I think will help. We've enjoyed as a distributor that's carrying your product and shipping it across the country. The stability of the DS3 platform for the last several years has been really nice. And so if we're having to change very frequently, it's disruptive for the whole channel. And I think this will future proof for a few years here. Um, Okay, and so you referenced it a bit already in terms of the interoperability of the DS3 and QS2 on the same system, the same ECUs, the same trunk cable. What about design? Why, if I'm an installer and I'm working on a 500-watt module right now for all of my Resi systems, how should I think about the pros and cons of using the QS2 or the DS3 or maybe some combination?
Yeah, so let's just do like a quick comparison between QS2s and DS3s. So, or I'll just use DS3L as a specific example. So, one thing that's pretty clear about the QS2 is that its AC output is much higher per channel. So for the QS2, it's 480 watts AC, and then for the DS3. It's DS3L. It's 764 768. I think I
Yes.
want to say 384 AC output.
384 per channel, yeah, on the L.
384, great, cool.
Yep,
Wow, I did it in my head.
good.
Yeah, well, so as you can imagine, 384 AC for the DS3L and 480 AC for the QS2. So as you can imagine, the AC output of the QS2 is much higher per channel, which means that on the good side is you'll be able to pull a lot more power from higher wattage panels. But the downside is that it does restrict your breaker space because because the inverter AC output, if it has a higher limit, that means you can put fewer micros per branch. As a reference, the QS2, the maximum amount of QS2s you can put on a 30 amp breaker is three QS2s. So if you have three QS2s, multiply that by four, the maximum amount of panels that you can put is going to be 12, which is pretty tough, but that's the trade-off that you have with the higher wattage quad. For the DS3L, because the AC output channel is smaller, the maximum amount you can put is six. Is that no, no, seven. So you can put seven DS3Ls on a 30 amp breaker. So seven times two, because it's quad, you can put 14 panels onto a 30 amp breaker. So just to summarize, QS2, 12 panels, a DS3L, 14 panels. So that's sort of the trade-off that you have between the two topologies. But so I would say that if you have a panel that's like 400 watt, 400, 450, 450 watts, or even 460 watts, uh, it's better to use the DS3Ls just from a breaker efficiency because you can put more panels onto a breaker and that will simplify your projects a lot more. However, if you're using larger panels, like 500-watt panels, if you're putting a 500-watt panel onto a DS3L, you'll get a lot of clipping because the AC output of a DS3L is a lot smaller than that of a QS2. So I generally would recommend using QS2s for larger panels instead. Um, so that's one use case is if you're using larger panels, QS2 is a good use case for that. The second use case also is if you have smaller systems where you don't really care too much about breaker sizings or size of panels. So say if you have a customer that just wants 8 panels or something like that, right? So one way is you could purchase four DS3Ls, or you could simplify installation and just have two QS2s, and then just have two QS2s on a roof, DC extensions into the QS2, and you just have a two microinverter solution, which is a lot more simpler to deal with than a four microinverter solution. So that would be another use case for the QS2s if you have like smaller simplified systems like that.
Great. Yeah, certainly the interoperability will help installers, I'm sure, choose the best product for their specific designs and maybe combinations even on the same install. Yeah. Okay. Any final thoughts on the QS2?
Um, I think the final comment I want to make on a QS2 is that it was definitely a big part. The reason why it came up with the QS2 was with a strong conversation that we had with a lot of our customers, and including our strong partner with Charge Solar as well. So I just want to say that we do thank you for the feedback that you've given us. Thank you for being excited about the QS1. Sorry about the QS1 going away. But we hope that our QS2 is going to be will meet your guys' expectations for having a quad on the market. And I just want to thank you for giving your feedback to us. And we listen, and we hope this will be a great product for you all. So thank you very much, Jeff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, likewise, the partnership's been great. And I would just add again on the product stability front, it's been very nice to have a surety of supply of the same SKU over the number of years that you've had it on the DS3. I think it will stay around for a while because, again, some of the combinations you mentioned are very relevant. So we continue to plan to carry it. And then also looking forward to a BOM cost reduction opportunity on the QS2s where and when it makes sense for the right modules and the right roof topology. So, yeah, we have Charge Solar has put in our first purchase order for the QS2s. We expect those to ship mid-March and arrive in our warehouses across the country by late April. So, look forward to that. And thanks again, Chris.